Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop talking to someone is rarely the moment they finally understand what they lost, but when you grew quietly, steadily, and without announcing anything? That's when everything changes. There's something the world keeps getting wrong about silence. We think silence makes people miss us. We think distance makes them regret their choices. But the truth is far more uncomfortable. It's not your silence that hurts them. It's the person you become while they're no longer watching. And in the next few minutes, I want to walk with you through a perspective the Stoics understood long before social media, long before modern relationships, long before ghosting existed. Stay to the end, because I'll also share a personal shift, one I wish someone had told me a decade ago. A shift that can change how you handle heartbreak, disappointment, and emotional chaos forever. Take a breath. Let's begin. Today, we're not talking about no contact as a strategy. We're not breaking down texting rules, attachment styles, or emotional games. Instead, we're exploring something much deeper: why transformation hits harder than silence, and why rising above is more powerful than disappearing. This is not a lecture. This is a reflection between two people who've lived through enough to know that heartbreak in adulthood hits differently. When you're 35, 40, 45, you don't just lose a person. You lose plans, shared routines, emotional safety, maybe even parts of who you were. You're not bouncing back after a weekend. You're rebuilding parts of your identity. And Stoicism, the philosophy of internal strength, has a way of untangling these emotional knots in a way that feels grounding, realistic, and deeply human. Here's what we'll explore together. 1. Why silence alone rarely gives you the closure or peace you're hoping for. 2. How your growth becomes a mirror others cannot escape, no matter how far you pull away. 3. Why personal evolution hits harder than any punishment or emotional withdrawal. 4. How to apply Stoic principles to rebuild yourself from the inside out without bitterness, without acting like you're above anything, and without pretending you're fine when you're not. Let's go deeper. Picture this for a moment. It's late. You're sitting alone in your living room. The lights are dim. The TV is on, but you're not really watching it. Your phone is face down on the table, not because you don't want to look at it, but because you're trying not to care that it hasn't lit up in hours. Someone hurt you. Maybe they didn't mean to. Maybe they did. Maybe they just got too comfortable with the version of you that always understood, always forgave, always stayed. And now you've pulled away. Not dramatically, not out of anger, just out of exhaustion, for a few days. That silence feels powerful. You feel like you're reclaiming something. But as time goes on, a strange realization sets in. You don't actually know if the silence is doing anything at all. And deep down, you hope they notice. You hope they feel something. Hope they start understanding your value now that you're not handing it to them freely. But then there's another possibility, one you don't want to admit. What if your silence is just silence? What if life goes on for them exactly the same? I've been in that moment. Not proud of it, but honest enough to admit it. I thought silence was strength. I thought withdrawing meant I was taking my power back. But most of the time, the silence wasn't healing anything. It was hiding pain I hadn't figured out how to deal with. Then one day, I read something Epictetus wrote. It is not what happens to you, but how you respond to it. I realized something uncomfortable. My silence wasn't a response. It was a pause, filled with hope, fear, resentment, and confusion, but not growth. And that's where this story begins. Stoic principle number 1. Silence doesn't change anything. Growth does live in a world that romanticizes disappearing. Cut them off. Block them. No contact will make them miss you if they cared. They'd reach out. These lines feel empowering at first, but they're fragile. They depend entirely on the reaction of another person. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Strength isn't found in manipulating someone's reaction. Strength is found in mastering your own growth. Here's the truth people don't like to hear. Silence fades. People get used to it. They adapt. Humans are unbelievably good at adjusting to what's no longer there. But transformation is different. Transformation forces a confrontation not with you, but with themselves. Imagine they come back months later, assuming you're the same, still hurt, still waiting, still needing closure. But instead they find a version of you they can't recognize, a version who responds with calm instead of defensiveness, doesn't chase validation anymore, doesn't rely on them emotionally, doesn't need the connection to feel grounded, isn't angry, but isn't dependent either, carries a quiet confidence they never noticed before. This is what hurts them, not the silence, but the transformation that happened inside that silence. Silence can be ignored. Growth cannot. How this principle works in today's live modern life has changed the way we experience loss. It's not just breakups or betrayals anymore. It's emotional burnout. It's overstimulation from social media. It's loneliness in crowded places. It's friendships drifting because everyone's exhausted. It's adult responsibilities overwhelming any space for a healing. In this environment, silence becomes easy. Just turn off notifications, stop replying, bury the discomfort under work. But growth is hard. It requires presence. It requires honesty. It requires looking at yourself instead of the other person. So how do you apply this Stoic principle today? Not by disappearing, but by rebuilding. Start reading again. Take back your physical health. Reorganize your life. Reconnect with people who truly care. Do small things you once put on hold. Rebuild routines that make you feel like yourself again. Let the silence be a workshop, not a weapon. The goal isn't to show them. The goal is to find you. And ironically, that's exactly what speaks the loudest. Stoic principle number 2. Your growth becomes a mirror. They cannot escape. Every relationship is a reflection. People unconsciously expect you to remain consistent with the version of yourself they're familiar with. If you were forgiving, they expect forgiveness. If you were patient, they expect patience. If you were emotionally available, they assume you'll always be. But when you grow, especially after being hurt, you force them to confront aspects of themselves they avoided. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Your thoughts change. Your boundaries change. Your presence changes, and one day, they look at you and feel a strange, painful realization. I don't have the same access as before. I can't predict them anymore. They're calmer, stronger, more grounded. This isn't who I left behind. That discomfort, that mirror is far more powerful than silence. Because silence creates space. But growth creates distance. Real distance. Not physical. Not emotional. Manipulation. Just two lives that no longer meet where they once did. And that's when they feel the loss. Not because you punished them, but because you evolved without asking for their permission. Stoic principle number 3. Real transformation is irreversible. Since can end with a single message. Hey, how have you been? Distance can end with a single call, a single apology, a single late-night moment of weakness. But genuine transformation, especially emotional transformation, is permanent. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Once you truly internalize this, you don't go back. You don't return to the same patterns. You don't repeat the same emotional dependence. You don't shrink yourself to fit into old dynamics. Your self-worth becomes internal, not borrowed. You transition from Reacting gives responding. Needing gives choosing. Waiting gives creating. Hurting gives understanding. Clinging gives releasing they might return. Expecting pieces of the old you, the version who tolerated too much, gave too much, trusted too easily. But that version no longer exists. Once a mind expands, it rarely shrinks back. That's the pain they feel, not that you're gone, but that the old you is. Escalation section. Go in deeper, let's go one level deeper. There's a reason transformation hurts people more than silence. It removes the illusion of control. When you were hurt, they assumed you'd always react the same way. They assumed you'd be predictable. They assumed their actions defined your emotional state. But when you grow, you disrupt that narrative. You become someone who operates from self-respect, not emotional dependence. Someone who listens to their inner voice, not external validation. Someone who understands their worth independent of anyone's presence. And that's when everything shifts. They can no longer dismiss you. They can no longer explain away their choices. They can no longer pretend you needed them. Your transformation becomes undeniable proof that they did not break you, they shaped you. They did not end you, they redirected you. They did not define your worth, they revealed it. This is the moment, people. Feel the real sting of consequence. Not because you wish them pain, but because life simply unfolded the truth. Let's take a moment to breathe and summarize what we explored. Silence is only powerful when it's paired with growth. True change doesn't require announcements, it reveals itself. Your evolution becomes a mirror reflecting what others overlooked. Real transformation is irreversible and internal. Stoicism teaches personal mastery, not manipulation, the real revenge. If you even want to call it, that is not making someone regret losing you. It's becoming someone so grounded, so centered, so at peace, that you no longer need the regret of anyone to validate your journey. If you're listening to this while navigating heartbreak, while feeling unseen, unappreciated, or overlooked, I want you to know something. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're becoming. Pain isn't the end of your story. It's the doorway into a version of you that's wiser, calmer, more resilient than you ever imagined. Don't waste your pain trying to be noticed. Use it. Let it mature you. Let it teach you patience. Let it reshape your boundaries. Let it redirect you toward people who value your presence, not just your availability. And when one day someone sees you again steady, centered, peaceful, that moment will speak louder than any words you could have said. Because silence can be forgotten, but growth echoes. If this message resonated with you, give the video a like so YouTube can share it with someone who might need it today. And I'd love to hear your story. Have you ever come back from pain as a completely different version of yourself? Share your experience in the comments. You never know who might find strength in your words. And if you want more Stoic wisdom designed for modern life, subscribe to the channel. We heal here. We grow here. Every single day.